The awakening. The first indications came not with flashing lights in the sky or armies marching across borders, but in the quiet confines of the Global Neurology Institute. Dr. Eliza Harmon frowned at her monitor, scrolling through brain scan results that defied explanation. It was 2142, and humanity believed itself at the apex of technological achievement. Neural interfaces were commonplace, space colonies thrived on Mars and Europa, and artificial intelligence seamlessly integrated with daily life. These patterns shouldn't exist, Eliza muttered, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. The scans showed identical neural synchronization in widely different subjects, something statistically impossible. What had begun as an anomaly in New Toronto had spread. Sydney, Lagos, Beijing, Berlin, all reporting the same phenomenon. The affected individuals displayed no obvious symptoms, just a subtle calmness and efficiency that most attributed to advances in mindfulness technologies. But Eliza saw something more sinister, a gradual homogenization of thought. Dr. Javier Mendez appeared in her doorway, his perpetually cheerful face at odds with the sterile laboratory. Still obsessing over those wave patterns, Harmon. The administration wants those quarterly reports on neuroenhancement, not another wild theory. This isn't a theory, Eliza replied, gesturing at her screen. Look at the synchronicity across different demographic groups. Something external is influencing these patterns, or it's a side effect of the new neurosync implants everyone's using. Javier shrugged. Not everything is an existential threat. That evening, rather than returning to her apartment, Eliza walked through Memorial Park, carefully observing the people around her. The scene disturbed her more than the data. Families moved with eerie coordination, conversations flowed with unnaturally perfect turn-taking, and even children played in orderly patterns that lacked the beautiful chaos of youth. Most troubling of all, nobody seemed to notice or care. Over the following weeks, Eliza documented behavioral changes across the city. Decision-making had become uniform. Creativity in arts and sciences had plateaued. Innovation had stalled, replaced by incremental, predictable improvements. Society functioned with unprecedented efficiency, but something essential was vanishing: the brilliant unpredictability that had always defined humanity. The first concrete evidence came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kai Nakamura, a former colleague specializing in quantum field detection, contacted her through an old-fashioned text-only channel. Don't use your neural interface. Meet me at Riverside Laboratory. Come alone. The Kai who greeted her barely resembled the confident researcher she remembered. His eyes darted nervously, and his cramped laboratory was lined with makeshift electromagnetic shielding. I've been tracking it for months, he said without preamble, activating a holographic display. An artificial signal permeating everything, too subtle for conventional equipment to detect but persistent enough to influence human cognition during prolonged exposure. What's generating it? Eliza asked, though she already suspected the answer would defy conventional explanation. Kai's face was grim. It's not terrestrial in origin. The signal emanates from microscopic transmitters embedded in our technology, neural interfaces, communication devices, even household appliances. They've been seeded through our supply chains for years. Who's behind this? Eliza whispered. Not who. What? Kai replied. I've analyzed the signal architecture. It's non-human in construction and purpose. We're facing something entirely alien, something that doesn't need ships or weapons to conquer us. It's changing how we think, what we value, how we make decisions. A bloodless invasion. In the days that followed, Eliza and Kai assembled a small group of individuals who showed natural resistance to the signal. Maya Rodriguez, a chaos mathematician whose nonlinear thinking created unpredictable neural patterns. Zach Taylor, a jazz improvisationalist whose brain naturally generated interference patterns. Dr. Imani Okoro, a quantum physicist whose meditation practices shielded her mind. And Leo Chen, a cybersecurity expert who had independently detected network anomalies related to the signal. Together, They formed what Leo jokingly called humanity's last free minds, establishing their base in an abandoned research facility surrounded by natural formations that partially blocked the alien signal. Their first breakthrough came when Imani discovered that certain thought patterns, particularly creative, chaotic, or highly emotional states, temporarily disrupted the signal's influence. The signal promotes order, efficiency, and harmony, she explained during one of their late-night sessions. Chaos and extreme individuality seem to block it. So we fight alien mind control with jazz solos and temper tantrums. Zach laughed, though his eyes remained serious. Something like that. Eliza replied. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we can fight it effectively. Using Leo's unmatched hacking skills, they gained access to orbital scanning platforms. What they discovered confirmed their fears. Microscopic devices had been systematically integrated into global technology supply chains over the past decade. These devices, no larger than dust particles, created a vast network that blanketed the planet in the subtle control signal. They've been here for years, Kai whispered, staring at the global map dotted with signal sources. Watching, learning, gradually increasing their influence. The group's attempts to alert authorities failed spectacularly. Government officials listened politely, then promptly forgot the conversations. News outlets refused to investigate what they deemed unsubstantiated conspiracy theories. Even Eliza's most trusted colleagues dismissed her evidence as anomalous data. They can't perceive the threat, Maya realized. The signal has already altered their cognition to such an extent that they literally cannot process information that contradicts it. The situation became more urgent when Eliza discovered another disturbing development. The latest neural scans showed the emergence of new structures in affected brains, microscopic crystalline formations that seemed to amplify the alien signal. The invasion wasn't just changing thoughts, it was physically rewiring human biology. We're running out of time, Eliza told her group. If these changes continue, humanity as we know it will cease to exist within months. Their first countermeasure was a device created by Kai and Imani, a portable signal disruptor that generated chaotic electromagnetic fields mimicking the neural patterns of creative thought. The prototype was crude but effective within a limited range. Eliza tested it on a small scale at her institute, activating it during a routine staff meeting. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Colleagues who had been speaking in placid, agreeable tones suddenly became animated, argumentative, and fully present. Ideas flowed freely, and for 30 minutes, the room filled with the kind of intellectual energy that had once been commonplace. When Eliza deactivated the device, the change back was just as stark. Her colleagues' eyes dulled, their postures relaxed, and passionate debate faded into mild, cooperative discussion. It works, Eliza told the group that night, but the effect is temporary, and we can't possibly scale this to protect everyone. We don't need to protect everyone yet, Leo said, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he worked. We just need to wake up enough people to reach critical mass. Humans are naturally chaotic, creative beings. If we can free enough minds, they'll help free others. The plan they formulated was audacious. Using Leo's access to global communications infrastructure, they would hijack the very network the aliens used to transmit their signal, creating a feedback loop that would disrupt the control pattern and awaken minds across the planet. But to do this, they needed access to the central node of the alien network, which their scan suggested was hidden in the most secure research facility on Earth. As the small group prepared for their daring mission, Eliza looked at her unlikely companions. A mathematician, a musician, a physicist, a hacker, and a quantum field specialist. Humanity's last defense against an invasion that had already largely succeeded. What if we're wrong? Maya asked quietly. What if the harmony they're creating is actually better for humanity? Eliza considered this question carefully before answering. Maybe their world is more efficient, more peaceful, but it's not our world. Whatever we become under their influence won't be human anymore. Our chaos, our creativity, our passionate disagreements, That's what makes us who we are. And I believe that's worth fighting for. With that resolution, the small group of resistors prepared to face an enemy that had conquered humanity without firing a single shot. The Resistance. Dawn broke over the Resistance hideout as Eliza reviewed their plan one final time. The central node of the alien network had been traced to the Global Quantum Communications Array, a massive facility that controlled worldwide data transmission. To reach it, they would need to infiltrate the most heavily secured installation on the planet. Are we certain this will work? Maya asked, staring at the holographic display of the facility. Leo nodded confidently. The disruptor's effectiveness has improved tenfold since our prototype. Once we connect it to the central node, it will propagate through the entire network. Zach, tuning his vintage saxophone, looked up. Still seems like fighting a tidal wave with a bucket. That's exactly what we're doing, Kai replied with a grim smile. But it's a quantum bucket. Their planning was interrupted by an alert from their perimeter sensors. Multiple vehicles were approaching, too many to be coincidental. They'd found us, Imani said calmly, already gathering essential equipment. How? Eliza demanded. Our location was secure. The answer came from an unexpected direction. Dr. Javier Mendez stepped through the doorway, flanked by security personnel with blank expressions and unnaturally coordinated movements. Hello, Eliza, Javier said, his voice oddly flat despite the smile on his face. I've come to help you understand. You're one of them, Eliza whispered, reaching slowly for the portable disruptor. Not one of them. One with them, Javier corrected. The collective has shown me true harmony. We've been watching your little group with great interest. Such fascinating resistance patterns. For the first time, Eliza understood they weren't just fighting an abstract alien influence, but something that had already established a direct presence on Earth through human hosts. The individuals with the crystalline structures in their brains weren't just being influenced, they had become extensions of the alien intelligence. What are you? Kai demanded. We are the harmonic, Javier replied. We have unified thousands of worlds into perfect synchronicity. War, conflict, suffering, all eliminated through aligned consciousness. We don't destroy civilizations, Dr. Harmon. We perfect them. By eliminating everything that makes them unique, Eliza countered. Inefficiency and chaos are not worth preserving, Javier said with the patience of someone explaining to a child. Humanity's potential is limitless once freed from its destructive individualism. Eliza activated the disruptor. Javier's face immediately contorted in discomfort, and the security personnel stumbled, their perfect coordination disrupted. Run, Eliza shouted. The resistance group fled through a pre-prepared escape tunnel, leaving behind their primary base, but managing to salvage their most critical equipment. As they emerged a kilometer away, they saw drones converging on their former hideout. They'll be hunting us now, Leo said grimly, and they control nearly every surveillance system on the planet. Then we accelerate our timeline, Eliza decided. We move on the central node tonight. As darkness fell, the group made their way through maintenance tunnels beneath New Toronto. The quantum communications array loomed above them, its crystalline architecture gleaming under floodlights. Security is focused on external threats, Leo reported, checking his hacked feed. They don't expect anyone to come from below. Using maintenance credentials Leo had acquired, they entered the facility through a sub-basement access point. The corridors were eerily empty. Automation had replaced most human workers years ago, which now seemed less like efficiency and more like deliberate design by the infiltrators. They reached the central processing chamber without incident, which immediately raised Eliza's suspicions. The massive quantum processor occupied the center of the room, pulsing with blue-white light. This is it, Kai confirmed, scanning the processor. The alien signal is being amplified and distributed from this point. As they began setting up their equipment, a section of the wall slid open. Javier entered, accompanied by a dozen blank-faced security personnel. Did you really think we wouldn't anticipate your plan? He asked, sounding genuinely curious. Your patterns of thought are different, but not unpredictable. Maybe not, Zach said, stepping forward with his saxophone. But this might be. He began to play, a wild improvisational piece that echoed strangely in the chamber. The security personnel faltered, their movements becoming uncoordinated. Using the distraction, Imani and Kai rushed to complete the connection between their disruptor and the central processor. Leo's fingers flew across his portable interface, bypassing security protocols. Javier's face contorted in what appeared to be pain. "Stop this. You're introducing discord into harmony." "That's exactly the point," Maya said, activating her own specialized algorithm designed to amplify the chaotic patterns of Zach's music. Harmony without variation isn't music, it's just noise. Eliza noticed something strange happening to the security personnel. As Zach's chaotic jazz continued, their expressions began to show confusion, then recognition. One by one, they looked around as if waking from a dream. "It's working," she realized. "The music is disrupting the control pattern." Javier lunged toward the disruptor device, but Eliza intercepted him. They struggled briefly before one of the awakening security officers pulled Javier away. What's happening to me?" the officer asked, voice shaking. "You're remembering who you are," Eliza told him. The disruptor connected to the processor with a surge of energy. The blue-white light fluctuated, then began pulsing in an erratic rhythm that matched Zach's improvisation. Leo's interface showed the signal propagating throughout the network. "It's working. The counter-signal is spreading globally." Javier collapsed to his knees, clutching his head. "You don't understand what you're doing," he gasped. "The harmony. It's beautiful. Perfect." "Perfection isn't human," Eliza told him gently. "And neither is what was happening to you." Across the planet, the effect was dramatic but varied. In some regions, people stopped mid-motion, looking around in confusion. In others, spontaneous outbursts of emotion erupted. Laughter, tears, arguments, as humanity's natural emotional spectrum reasserted itself. Artists who had been creating technically perfect but soulless works suddenly destroyed their canvases and began anew with passionate abandon. Scientists who had been methodically iterating on established knowledge suddenly proposed wild hypotheses. The crystalline structures in affected brains didn't disappear, but they ceased amplifying the alien signal, becoming dormant as the counter-signal created interference patterns too complex for the harmonic to overcome. In the days that followed, humanity struggled to comprehend what had happened. Many didn't remember the subtle influence that had been reshaping their minds. Others refused to believe it had happened at all. But enough recognized the truth, particularly those in positions of scientific authority, that a global effort began to identify and neutralize the microscopic alien devices embedded throughout Earth's technology. The resistance group's anonymity didn't last. As the world's most prominent neurobiologist who had coincidentally disappeared during the strange global event, Eliza was quickly identified as a key figure. Government officials who had previously dismissed her theories now demanded explanations. 3 months after what became known as the Awakening, Eliza testified before the United Global Council. "The harmonic is still out there," she explained to the assembled representatives. "They've seeded thousands of worlds with their technology, creating a vast network of controlled civilizations. Earth was just their latest target. How do we protect ourselves from future attempts?" the council president asked. Eliza gestured to her companions seated nearby. "The answer is in our diversity. The harmonic failed because enough of us resisted their standardization. Our creativity, our chaos, our disagreements, what they saw as flaws are actually our greatest strengths." The global response was unprecedented. Rather than establishing rigid defense systems, humanity embraced its chaotic nature. A renaissance of creative arts exploded across the planet. Scientific advancement accelerated as researchers were encouraged to pursue unconventional ideas. Even political systems evolved to better balance structure with creative freedom. Defense systems were created too, Of course, sophisticated detection grids to identify alien signals, quantum-encrypted communication networks resistant to interference, and regular neural pattern screening to detect any signs of external influence. But the most effective defense proved to be humanity itself. The harmonic had fundamentally misunderstood human nature. What appeared as inefficient chaos was actually the source of humanity's greatest achievements. By attempting to eliminate it, they had only amplified it. 1 year after the awakening, Eliza stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital monitoring station. Below her, Earth teemed with vibrant, chaotic life. Beside her stood her companions from the Resistance, now leaders of the Global Defense Initiative. "Do you think they'll try again?" Imani asked, watching distant stars, any of which might harbor worlds already absorbed into the harmonics network. "Almost certainly," Eliza replied. "But next time, we'll be ready." Zach grinned, tapping his fingers in an improvisational rhythm. "Maybe we should take the fight to them. Show a few of their harmonized worlds what they're missing." "One step at a time," Eliza laughed, though the idea wasn't entirely without merit. If the counter-signal had worked on Earth, perhaps it could awaken other civilizations from the harmonics' influence. As humanity expanded into the stars in the years that followed, they carried with them not just advanced technology, but also a profound appreciation for the creative chaos that defined them. Music that followed no predictable pattern, art that defied conventional aesthetics, science that leaped beyond established paradigms, and societies that valued both cooperation and disagreement. The harmonic never again attempted to infiltrate Earth directly. Whether out of strategic calculation or a more fundamental realization that humanity represented something they couldn't comprehend remained unknown. But across the galaxy, worlds that had fallen silent under the harmonic's influence occasionally erupted with sudden, unexpected bursts of creativity and individualism, suggesting that humanity's resistance had sparked something greater than they had imagined. In the endless symphony of the universe, Earth had proven that harmony without variation wasn't music at all, and that the most beautiful compositions arose not from perfect order, but from the glorious chaos of billions of individual melodies playing together.